supporting the growth of the project, identifying the blind spots, and helping the project leaders to make significant progress over the course of 1 year.
The Scale program has 3 pillars. So firstly, we have the mentorship, where each project is paired up with 2 high-level experts, the capacity building workshops every month, and a support from the Paris Peace Forum Secretariat.
The types of projects are very diverse and they come from all over the world.
The first day that the war in Ukraine started, we put all our regular activity on hold and we started building the digital infrastructure that was needed by the refugees coming into Romania.
Josia est un programme pour sauvegarder le patrimoine en situation d'urgence. Faire partie du Scale programme nous a permis de réaliser à quel point nous agissons pour la paix.
Empatia is a project that promotes the use of AI to solve public issues such as health, development, or climate change.
The purpose of the initiative is to create collaboration on environmental issues across the India-Pakistan border on issues like air pollution, water usage, and sustainable agriculture.
The Scale Up program is an accelerator of global governance solutions. We aim to help project teams be better equipped to influence and challenge governance, and ultimately help them amplify their impact and their reach.
Being recognised for the work we were trying to do to make change globally out of Africa and out of the Global South was part of what the Scale Up Award meant for us.
We've had a phenomenal year throughout the SCUP program, and I think the secret to kind of growing
With project leaders and to experts, we ask them, please join us and get involved with the Scale program.
Hello and welcome to this session, Innovative Solution for Sustainable Progress, featuring some project leaders here at the Paris Peace Forum. The Paris Peace Forum was built in 2018 on the belief that collaborative action can be built from the bottom up and that impactful solutions already exist out there, tackling those global challenges we talk about at the Paris Peace Forum. And every year, we showcase them in our Space for Solution, and 10 of them are selected in our Scale Up program, a year of personalized support. So in the speech session, you'll have the pleasure to meet 5 of those who were supported this year and who are going to present their trajectories and results over a year of support. This format aims to be quite interactive, allowing you to get a glimpse of this amazing work these project leaders do all year long. On the variety of topics you'll see, developing a sustainable development and social change worldwide. You'll assist to a very interactive format with 5 pitches followed by a round of feedback and question from experts, our dear moderators. We're going to ask question and feedback, and we'll take 1 question from one of you in the audience. Allow me to introduce our moderators. I'm delighted and honored to share the stage today with them. They are experts and members of our community who know very well the work we do with projects all year long because they are mentors from our Scale-Up community. Let me introduce Meredith Preston-Magee, Secretary General at the Global Center for Pluralism, and Alexis Lafitan, Partnerships Manager at UNDP. Thank you for joining us. Do you want to say a word before we introduce the first project?
Super. Thank you, Leah. Great to see so many of you here. Just maybe to say that I think the scale-up process is particularly unique in so many of the awards and programs that I've seen because it enables us to engage with just really incredible innovation around the world. And I think one of the things that I've really taken away over several years is innovation is hard. And it does require a lot of thinking and strategy. It's about how do you communicate your message, but it's also about how you're digging down to actually solve these problems. And just a huge congratulations to all of you, because I think it's really an excellent program, and we just love working with these extraordinary projects. Thanks.
Exactly, Meredith. I'm Alexis Lafitan. I work for the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and it's my 3rd year as a mentor in the program. So I think beyond like the support, it's really a community, and I think we are here, you know, from different international organizations, civil society, private sector, to provide support, but it's also to connect. And like the beauty of the PPF, the Paris Peace Forum, is also to bring this community together to scale like innovative solutions. So I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Meredith and Alexis. Allow me and join me to welcome the first project leader on stage, Eunice Rendon Cardenas. She's General Coordinator at Red Viral, and she's going to present the Knockout program. Over to you, Eunice.
Thank you. Why should we care about incarcerated people? Good morning. My name is Eunice Rendon, and I am our reintegration program, Knockout, Do Not Give Up. Knockout, Do Not Give Up is a tertiary prevention model that through boxing practice, reconciliation and forgiveness methodologies, and a comprehensive emotional care at the individual, collective, and family levels aims to contribute to that second chances to people that maybe haven't had a real first one opportunity. After 10 years of working in jails, I can assure you that punishment doesn't reintegrate no one. It's about giving real second chances, confidence, and to give them also skill life abilities in order to have a real reintegration processes. Through boxing, like in life, we need in every bound discipline, resilience, and also the strength to get up even if we fall. So that's very important for our program. Also, after 10 years of working with people in jails, we have been certifying them in order to boxing professors once they're released. And through our Scale Up program, which we are very thankful with Meredith and Mark, we also enhance our communitarian branch of Knockout. So now, the people that release jails, now they are professors in different communities, in their own communities. So we are working also in secondary prevention with risk groups at community level. So we are very proud of announcing also that we have reached international and private sector support during this year. And also, for us, it's very important to understand that second opportunities are very important in order to reinsert people and to make them feel better. Because in our systems, especially in Latin America, punishment is the key into jails. And that's why 1 of every 4 people that get out come again to jails. It's not working, these models. So we are here in order to invite you to reflect, to have a reflection about rethinking justice. And also, we invite you to support initiatives that heals, that have second opportunities instead of punishment. So in that way, we can together have and build a better and more resilient world. Thank you very much.
Okay. Alexia and I have decided we're going to just sort of do a quick feedback and question, just in the interests of time, to enable the project leaders to respond to us.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm just going to wait for Eunice to get that on so she can hear me.
Yeah, no.
But I'm not sure I should go first because I feel like a proud auntie right now. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Something that I've been really struck by throughout this last year with all of you is that you are seeking support, but I think also you are solving a problem that is incredibly endemic and hard to address in Mexico and around the world. And I think also we need to engage with this also, not just as this is a different way of working, but this is a solution. And this is absolutely why Paris Peace Forum selected you as a solution. And I think the way that you've presented right now really centers on those core issues. Something else that came out today that maybe because we talked in the weeds a lot during the year, didn't, but I love that you're speaking about it, is these questions of belonging and questions of justice, that these are really at the center of a safe and secure and successful society. So well done. I love that. I'm going to let Alexi ask you a question, and then you can respond.
Thank you very much.
No, excellent speech. Quick question. Are there unique aspects of boxing, actually, that are like more beneficial, like to the aspect of reintegration of social? I'm a big believer in sport for development or sport for social cohesion, but why more boxing rather than another team sport? And I also see, like, throughout this project, like partnerships, you mentioned private sector, international organization, have been key, like, to scale up the program. Can you also develop a bit more on that part of how partnership have played a central role to support, like, the integration process?
Sure, thank you very much. Boxing, we work in very different prevention programs in different communities in Mexico and in other countries. But boxing has been very special for us in reinsertion programs, especially in jails and with difficult populations, because it develops a very hard sense of belonging. And also, as long as we work with the World Boxing Council, champions come with us to jails, and also that's very inspiring to our peers in jails, to our participants in jails. So, and another very interesting result with boxing is that 90% of our our participants overcome addictions, even very difficult ones like heroin. So they told us that boxing is like their drug instead of having these bad drugs. So I think that the physical effort that you have through boxing is it's a very good solution for people that have other kind of addiction. And also it develops a discipline. It also develops a very good condition, physical condition, but as long as we work as well with forgiveness and reconciliation, they develop also a healthier mental health as well. So for us it's very special, boxing, more than other sports. And about alliances, it is very important for us to work with different alliances at the World Boxing Council, but also this year we were working with some private sectors, French enterprises such as EDF, AXA, and Yves Rocher. And it was very useful for us in order to enhance our program in jails, but also our branch in the communitarian area. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eunice, and congratulations for all the work. We are now going to take a quick question from the audience. So, does anyone have something to ask to Eunice about the Knockout program? If not, you will always be able to meet with the team in the Scope Gallery right over there. If it's okay with you, we can welcome to the stage our next speaker, Micah Walter-Range, Chairman of the Board of the Kaelius Foundation. Over to you, Micah.
Thank you. Good morning. I can personally guarantee that every single one of you uses space capabilities. Whether it's weather forecasting, long-distance communications, or the navigation apps that we all have on our phones, space is a part of your life. Beyond the personal side, space has contributions to make to every other sector on Earth. Now, the United Nations has actually recognized this too, and has a list of how space can contribute to meeting every single one of the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's no surprise that many nations in the global south are trying to figure out how they can use space to meet those goals. In theory, it should be incredibly simple. The spacefaring nations have technology, they have data, they make it available to those other nations, sometimes for sale, sometimes subsidized, sometimes even free. The problem is that when they do this, it's not done in a way that makes sense in that local context. The space industry is optimized for higher income nations, not lower income nations. So if I give you free satellite imagery to use for urban planning or environmental monitoring, but there's no one in your nation who has the expertise to apply that, does that help anything? Or if I sell you communication services to connect remote rural communities, but they can't afford it, has anyone's life actually improved? This is the problem that we're trying to solve. So over the past year, as part of the Scale Up program, we've worked with our mentors and our partners at the Maldives Space Research Organization to plot a course for the Maldives for how they can bring space into their economy and really make it work for them. And so there are three key lessons that I want to share with you from our experience over the course of the past year. The first is that island nations, not just the Maldives, island nations need space. They need it for monitoring coastal erosion. They need it for understanding what's going on in their maritime zones. They need it to connect remote communities and to enable sustainable economic development across many different industries. The second point is that despite the well-intentioned efforts of the global space industry, the governments and the companies involved, we can offer technology and data, but there's very little useful guidance on how to make all of that work in that local economic context. And the third point is that development banks and philanthropic funds and other financiers, they do not understand the value of space because nobody has made a solid economic case to them for supporting that work. So that's what we've been doing, and those are significant challenges, but there is hope. And the work that has been going on in the Maldives, the support from the government, the support from space industry outside of the nation is incredibly encouraging. And I think within the next several years, we're going to see the Maldives charting a course that other island nations will be able to follow in terms of how they use space for their economies. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. I think this is very inspiring. And you mentioned like the UN, and a couple of months ago, actually, the 193 member states of the UN have adopted through the Pact of the Future, And in the pact, there's explicit recognition to space as also an enabler of the importance of space governance for sustainability. You mentioned how space can contribute to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but one of the key points that your project is also addressing, I guess, is also like about the economy of the future. I think we see like a growing digital divide. That we talk about a lot about AI, but I think about access to space and also in terms of capacities to size and harness like the benefits that proper space management and proper spatial tools can for development of a country is key. So my advice is also like how to better connect to local ecosystems of international organizations, private sector actors to provide and strengthen this capacity building system. So space should remain a resource for all of humanity and not only for a few. And I think you made a very good case for the small island developing states. So maybe Meredith can ask a question.
Thank you, and I think that that actually picks up because the other piece of it that you mentioned was making the economic case and recognizing that this also, while it is a net global good, it also isn't just charity, that there is an economic case to be made. And so I'm sort of maybe a two-part question is, one is your thoughts on how you make that economic case, but also you've been talking about small island nations. How have you assessed sort of why you started with the Maldives, and how would you assess other countries where you might move to next? I mean, how do you sort of assess the economic needs of a given society when you're looking to offer this technology?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. The approach that we take is to really start with our own set of three questions. The first is, what does that economy need? Are people going hungry? Are there needs for better jobs in certain sectors? What does that look like? The second question is, what are the goals? And this is why we have to work with governments, because they're the ones who set economic goals for the nation. So if I know where you're trying to go with your economy, then I can figure out how space can contribute to that specifically. And then the third question that we ask is, out of all the different space capabilities, which ones are going to be the best match, and what is the economic model for integrating that into the community? So that's how we approach it, and I'm happy, if there are any other island nations or other nations here represented, happy to have that conversation about how we can do that economic assessment and figure out how best space can serve your needs.
Thank you so much, Micah. Is there anyone in the audience that wish to add a question to this insightful exchange? We have a bit of time for one question. Yes? Can someone? Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for your intervention and for your work. What motivates you on a day-to-day basis, knowing that it takes time for your impact to be felt?
That is an excellent point. So economic development is a slow process, much slower than we would like to see. But it is the belief that space technology can help. And I've been in the space industry my entire career. Right now, I would say I'm acting as someone almost outside the space industry, trying to be that voice of reason, to speak on behalf of everyone else to the space industry, to say, this is what you need to do. This is how it needs to be done differently from the way it has in the past. And it is challenging, but also very rewarding to see that light go on in people's heads, and they think, oh, well, maybe if I do change my approach, it's going to deliver the results that I've been looking for all along.
Thank you so much, Maika. We are now going to welcome our next project leader on stage, Sahar Mukadem. She's regional project manager at Aide Humanitaire et Journalisme, and we're going to present the project Journalisme pour les droits humains.
Thank you, Leah. So as far as I can remember, I always wanted to be a journalist. But then I became a mom at 21 years old. And I had to make the move from Lebanon to Iraq. At that time, I really found that there's no space for me in the media scene. Maybe because of the way I look, maybe because I didn't want to work without any job contracts, but also maybe because I was a mother. So this might be one of the reasons. Until in 2020, I joined Aide Humanitaire et Journalisme as a trainee in webmastering journalism. And from this day, my life really changed because I found my place as a journalist in a really safe space where can I express what I need and what I want. So ASH for me is really a place that instead of only preaching values, it actually works to really do them. ASH's main 3 goals are the following. 1, accelerating gender equality by supporting women's professional integration in media and human rights. 2nd, strengthening the professional skills by providing education, networking, and protection measures to journalists working in conflict zone. 3rd, to promote a feminist government, ensuring women's active participation in societies affected by conflict. Since starting as a trainee, ASH really gave me extensive experience and one-on-one coaching and training to achieve what I achieved today. I'm very proud to say that today I'm the regional project manager in ASH organization. And every day I'm really lucky to witness the impact of our action. I'm going to tell you our results in less than a minute if I can. So ASH's initiatives are active in Iraq and Yemen mainly, but we have a network called Women's Voices Without Border that operates in 12 countries in the conflict zones. We have reached over 350 beneficiaries, protected 50 women journalists, and amplified the voices of more than 100 women in conflict zones. We have organized 20 seminars, 40 conferences, and 5 live podcast events for the first time in Iraq. And most importantly, we have created a platform called Makanati, My Place in Media, a platform by women and for women. 2024 was really a phenomenal year for ASH because in this year we opened our new studio in Yemen, and we have opened our podcast studio in Iraq, and we're planning to do a very big conference in Iraq to promote gender equality and to promote the voices of women in conflict zones. Thanks to a year of PPF scale-up, I have 1 second, to PPF scale-up, we also got a lot of support to expand our project to Egypt and also to strengthen our safety and security protocols. So today, I really ask all of you to really understand the need to have women voices, to really listen to them when addressing very important issues on conflict, especially in this time where peace is really threatened. So we need to listen to women. We need to support them in raising their voices because by them and through them we can achieve peace.
I'll let you put that on first. So I sometimes feel like the reason I come to the Paris Peace Forum is to listen to all of these incredibly inspiring pitches, and that was just wonderful. One of the things that really strikes me about what you're talking about is that you're using media as the platform to shift the narrative in a society, but media is your platform. There are so many others as well, and so I'm sure that you're connecting also with other women's movements and movements towards feminist governance in these spaces. But what really strikes me as well is the media's power power to define the narrative. And if women aren't speaking as part of that narrative, you're not shifting it. And so the use of media is so strategic in that, and I think that really comes out in your pitch. So congratulations.
Congratulations as well. My question is very straightforward. So you mentioned some of the contexts in which you work, for example, Yemen. And can you discuss a bit more the unique challenges for NGOs and media to work in this conflict zone, and also how your organization can ensure the safety of women journalists working in this dangerous, sometimes, environment?
Thank you so much for this very important question. I want to say that we operate in countries where it's extremely challenging to be a woman, and put on top of that to be a journalist also. So these ladies are really fighters. They face every day all kinds of challenges from their societies, from the government, from the political parties that really have a strong effect in these countries, but sometimes also from their own families. So what we do is we have created a network called Women's Voices Without Borders. And the core idea of this network is to put in contact these wonderful women that it's true that they are coming from different countries, but they are at the same time facing some really similar challenges. I really want to say that today we have 20 women present with us in Paris Peace Forum. They are all wearing the same T-shirt as me. We have from Egypt, Nihal, Noha from Adan, Yasmin from Yemen, Fatma from Egypt, our great founder and General Director, Shayda Hisami, and Lucy from France, and also Parasto from Afghanistan. So having all these ladies really give us a lot of support, and it gives a sort of solidarity and sorority, if I may say. And we do have also a very what was the word in English? Yeah, we do have a very strong security protocol and safety measures that we have incorporated after a lot of analysis on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sahar, for these insights. Time for the Q&A from the audience. Does anyone has a question to our project leader? Don't be shy, but you know how to find them with their beautiful T-shirts in the SCUB gallery. Oh, amazing, a question.
Hi, thank you for sharing this beautiful project and also your personal experience. And I wanted to ask you if you could go back to yourself when you first began that project, what advice will you give to yourself, and maybe what advice will you give to someone starting out a project?
Okay, thank you so much. It's a really very important question. If I want to talk in a conflict zone context, because it's very important, these ladies who are working now with us are really fighters. So you really need to believe in yourself. You really need to believe in the mission of journalism and media and the effect that this media give, even if it's a slow process and even when sometimes we give up, we do have the power. Words are really a power. Writing is really a power. So we do have the power to change. And I will really tell them, to all my colleagues working in conflict zone, that we really need them, because without them we wouldn't know really the effect of conflict, especially on women. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sahar. Now we're welcoming our next project leader, Fraser Sargent. He's Associate Professor at the University of Birmingham, and he's going to present us with the project Agriculture Collective for Marginalized Farmers.
Sonia. Hi, so our project basically is about reinventing the collective farm. We've been working in a region of the Gangetic Plains of South Asia, the bordering region between Bangladesh, northeastern India and Nepal for the last decade. This is an area where the vast majority of agricultural programs have actually largely failed. So a lot of the efforts for climate smart agriculture, new technologies, the reason that they have failed is because they do not reach the majority of farmers. The majority of farmers are very marginal holders, so they have less than 0.5 hectares of land. Many of the farmers do not own land, they're working as tenants. So the technologies which are being pushed are largely out of reach to the marginal farmers and are only suitable for the very top tier of farmers. Now, I've worked for many years in land reform. Over the last half a century, land reforms have essentially failed in this region. So we've come up with kind of our own sort of what we see as a very radical solution, which is through essentially collectivization. What we're trying to do is we're encouraging farmers to consolidate land. So basically, farmers who have several tiny plots of land, consolidate them into larger units, form group farms of between 10 to 15 households. And so far, the results have actually surpassed our expectations. Now, you might ask why collective farming. You know, collective farming is a very bad name. It failed during the Soviet period. The reason it failed was because these collective farms were large. They were, you know, 100, thousands of households. It was impossible to manage such a large unit. So what we've done is essentially we've developed a new model of collective farming, which essentially is small units of between 5 to 10 households at the most, very democratic leadership, and very much under the leadership of women in particular, because this is a region where there's very, very high levels of male out-migration, so women are essentially running the agricultural economy. The results so far, I mean, the collective farms have shown massively improved bargaining power, particularly in agricultural markets. They've given the opportunity for women to get economies of scale, so more easily access, you know, agricultural technologies, which would be unfeasible for a very small holder. They've also allowed mechanization and a much more efficient use of irrigation, because now land can be irrigated out in one go over a large area of land rather than many small farmers trying to irrigate their land individually. And also it's facilitated improved labour management and very strong community cohesion in regions which are experiencing demographic crisis due to out-migration. So far under the last year, we've kind of consolidated plans to reach another 25,000 farmers in other parts of the Gangetic Plains. And we're also using our collective farms as a model to promote organic and natural farming to benefit from the knowledge pooling through these larger units of production. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fraser. Full disclosure, I was a mentor to this project. It's particularly close to my heart. So in addition of the focus on collective farming, I think there's also a lot of your work on natural farming. It's about also combining agricultural productivity and sustainability. And I think the model that you're proposing is also built on interdisciplinary expertise, because you're bringing also expertise from academia, international academia. But I want to recognize also Dhananjay and Nishan here, like also local expertise, like the work of local NGOs that have been, know the context and also know how to work with like women groups and so on. So I think over the past year, like throughout the project, throughout the duration of the project, you managed also to try to work towards influencing domestic agricultural policies in India. And I think one of the concrete progress is also now we have like the government of Andhra Pradesh willing to commit to support and train some of the farmers like towards this type of alternative models. So that could be mainstream actually. And so I think it's a huge progress and it's a huge achievement, and like congratulations for the good work.
That actually leads on, sort of answers one of my questions, which was engagement with governments and how you're seeing this actually leading to different policy change. But another, if you have a moment on it, is knock-on effects around women's leadership, that when you see women taking these practical roles, are you seeing that having further change in terms of women's leadership in other sectors of the society? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, it has been extremely successful in terms of government collaboration, and particularly Dhananjay and Nishant from Saki and CDHI are NGO partners who are actually implementing this work on the ground. I'm purely just doing the research side of things. They've actually consolidated really strong links with local government. The local government has been extremely receptive and supportive, and even in spite of the fact that this is quite a controversial mechanism of agriculture, method of agriculture. And like you said, government of Andhra Pradesh in South India is actually training our farmers to allow the state-to-state collaboration, training our farmers in natural farming transition. In terms of women leadership, it's really been outstanding. Some of our women farmers have actually received national awards in farmer leadership. So it's been at a time when women are essentially taking over the agricultural sector because many men are migrating, then this has been hugely beneficial in terms of strengthening, filling in many of the access gaps that women have faced in terms of accessing technology and accessing government and state services. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fraser. We're now going to take a question from the audience. Yes?
Thank you for sharing that. It's been very exciting to hear about this project. I wanted you to tell us more, perhaps a bit more about how have you managed to have effective cohesion and governance within the collectives and how that has worked so far.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I mean, so like I was saying earlier, the reason that many group farms or collective endeavors have failed in the past is because essentially you have what we call free rider problems. You know, people don't see the incentive to work when they're part of a big group. But I think what we've shown is that this has been overcome through essentially small and cohesive groups where everyone knows each other well. So we're forming groups not of random farmers. We're getting people who are already part of a community. Some of them are even related. They already have a strong kind of community spirit. Some of them have also been part of self-help groups together in the past. So we're building upon existing strong institutional bonds. And by keeping the groups small and by keeping them as democratic as possible, so that's sort of facilitated very strong bonding. We've also allowed the farmers to set their own rules, set their own, I mean, it's farmer-led. All we've done is we've suggested an idea. We've said we'll support if you're willing to form a group. So it's been entirely voluntary and entirely farmer-led. As a result of this, we've actually got 4 unique models which evolved sort of through this sort of iterative process of engagement with farmers. So farmers really have formed their own solution. We've just played a facilitating role. And by making it farmer-led, I think that has really made it very democratic, and it's really helped cohesion. You know, farmers feel a sense of ownership rather than many other development programs which just come in, do something, then leave after 2 or 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fraser. We still have a bit of time for a second question in case someone wants to ask something. Otherwise, we can move on to the next project leader. Well, thank you so much, Fraser, and congratulations. We're now going to welcome, last but not least, Dani Mera from Astralintus. She's Chief Marketing Officer at Astralintus Space Technologies.
Okay. Satellites in orbit are producing data that is transforming the way that we as a society are tackling risk management and Earth conservation. This data, unfortunately, hasn't been accessible to most part of the Earth. And this data is so important to addressing important risks that we have now. For example, deforestation or weather impact. For example, what happened the past week in Valencia, Spain. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Daniela Mera. I am part of Astralintus Space Technologies, the first new space startup in Ecuador. What we do and what our mission is bringing the benefits of space back to Earth, and especially addressing and being able to give these benefits to the global South. In order to do this, we have created a network of antennas that goes through the equatorial region, allowing us to download the data that we hope that can help with risk mitigation and rapid decision-taking in communities on Earth. So the problem that we're having with the data being in Earth is that despite thousands of kilobytes of data that is being produced, this data is not really getting to the communities, and especially communities in third world nations. What we are doing is partnering with with companies like The Orbit in Italy that have the hardware in space, and we're building the algorithm that actually processes the data on Earth, as well as creating the connections that will help us to bring this data to communities. So we are working right now with 2 local organizations in Ecuador to be able to tackle specifically this in Ecuador's Amazon region, which is one of the most biodiverse regions in the world. In order to do this, we have developed this algorithm, and we have had amazing impact in the first testing of it, reducing the time that the data is being processed by days or even hours to only minutes. So the reducement that we have been able to achieve is 98%, going from 7 hours to 7 minutes. You can now imagine the impact that that can have when tackling big risks that are happening on Earth. This is the 5th time that Ecuador has sent something to space, but only the first time that this data is coming down to Earth to benefit our own communities. So we, of course, want to make this project and our resources more available to nations worldwide. So we're now looking for partners to implement this, not only in the Amazon region, but right now in the whole Latin American region. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, Daniela. Thank you so much. I had the great luxury of having a preview of this one, and it's just wonderful to listen to you speak. I think your points around access to this technology, but also then applicability in real time for communities on the ground, I think is particularly powerful. The idea not only that this information has been circulating and is there, but we're not accessing it. We live in a global time where you need access to anything that will enable us to be pushing back against some of the challenges that we have. And you acting as this bridge, I think in this sense, literally from space to the Amazon, is really powerful and terrific to see.
Thank you very much.
So my question, I think Meredith mentioned applicability, and you mentioned quite a lot in your presentation the work with communities. And I would like to know, what role do indigenous communities, like in your region, in Ecuador, or like in the broader Amazon region, have in shaping the services and the orientations of the initiatives for your environmental monitoring efforts? And do you adapt also like the services from one indigenous community to the other, or could you detail a bit more? Like,
of course, yeah. Thank you so much for the question. So we know that the indigenous communities in Ecuador have so much cultural heritage and so much environmental awareness that we, let's say, in parts of the city do not have. So they are really the vessel through which we as Ecuadorians are connecting with our own nature, with our own biodiversity. And in terms of how we're applying this is the work that we're making with organizations. There are 2 different organizations tackling, that are working with 2 different communities in the Amazon region, and their problems are different, right? So with one, we're dealing with deforestation. With another one, we're dealing with flooding. So in this case, it's a different way to treat the data, to treat what we are doing. But at the end of the day, it all comes to being able to connect with these people that haven't had their voices really heard, and that are tackling big issues that, unfortunately, the government doesn't have a big capability to tackle as for now. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela. We still have a bit of time, so we can take questions from the audience. Does anyone want to ask a question about Astraling 2? Or if you still have feedback and questions yourself, dear moderators, feel free.
There's a question.
Thank you for sharing your insights. I was wondering, what's something that gives you hope in the work that you've been doing regarding access and biodiversity? What's something that kind of energizes you to keep pushing in the next year ahead?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. So moments like this is something that energizes us, right? So being able to have a stage to talk about this, being able to bring these issues to the light of everyone, and then being able to say that we have a solution. The road as a startup hasn't been easy, coming from Ecuador and just venturing into the space community. However, we have seen amazing results. People are really supportive, and there are people, for example, like Micah, who are doing things with partners of ours that is enabling all of this community to thrive and for us to be able to find new doors that are opening.
Thank you so much. Maybe, oh yes, Meredith, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
If you could get the government to be engaging with your data, what would you want them to do?
That's a wonderful question. Let's see. I think that the most important thing that right now we as Ecuador have the problem with is that we're going through an energetic crisis. Right now, as we're speaking, from 12 to 14 hours a day, the Ecuadorian population doesn't have any light. And these are times where projects like ours that we're dealing with data from space could help, either to prevent this or to now be able to bring a more effective solution. We have been trying to communicate, to contact, because we know that we could help. But of course, those doors are still on the way to opening up. Yes, thank you.
So if the Ecuadorian government is watching, there's an invitation.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Daniela.
Thank you so much, Leah.
So thank you to everyone. Thank you to you, Meredith and Alexi, for leading those insightful conversations, and to each one of you for sharing your stories and inspiring solutions. Before leaving the floor to my dear mentors and our moderators, to conclude this session, I wanted to say to you and remind you to join us this afternoon for the second pitch session to meet the 5 other projects that were supported this year in the Scale Up program. And obviously, the next session, the most awaited announcement of the new cohort. So if you want to discover who will be taking part in the Scale Up program next year, join us on this same stage in 20 minutes, I think. Meredith, Alexi, do you have any concluding thoughts? Some final words?
Just one thing to say, just listening to all of the pitches and listening to so many over the years here at the Paris Peace Forum, there's an Algonquin term that gets used in Canada, ancrose, which is everything is connected. And I'm always really struck about how much connection there is across the innovations that all of you have surfaced. And I really hope that you're able to learn from one another, because this is a phenomenal community of innovators. And I see these bridging engagements, belonging, engaging with women's leadership in new and innovative ways. All of these spaces are advancing these goals in different ways, but are really connected to one another. And that's wonderful to see.
I think we have also witnessed the energy in the room, like the project leaders were passionate, and I think many of the questions from the audience were around the passion, what drives you, and I think the Paris Peace Forum is a platform, and as an international organization, we are supportive, but the real difference is made on the ground by people like you, by people that are committed to making a difference for sustainable development goals or for whatever challenges that they see in front of us. Congratulations again to the Paris Peace Forum Scale Up Committee and to the entire team. I see many of them here. And we look forward to the announcement in a couple of minutes.
Well, we look forward to it too. Thank you for your engagement along the year. And thank you to all of you for joining and being interested in our Scale Up program.
Thank you.